right here in the Bronx.
Hey, welcome to Dino Reacts. They think we playing. Blacks for Trumps. Let's go.
I'm Abby Phillip in New York, and I want to get right to it tonight. One of Donald Trump's vice presidential contenders, Congressman Byron Donalds, he made some comments that has a lot of you talking and a lot of Democrats fired up. I'm going to speak with him live in just a couple of minutes, but here are the original remarks. They were made as a part of a pitch to Black voters in Philadelphia, and I want you to hear it in its full context. Listen.
I grew up with my mom. My dad and my mom, things didn't work out. As an adult, I look at my father and I say, bro, I don't know what happened, but you my father and I love you.
Wow.
I don't know what happened. I wasn't there.
Wow.
But I'm going to tell you this. Growing up, the one thing I knew I wanted to do, and this is not about my father, this is about what I wanted to do, is I wanted to be a father to myself.
Wow.
And so one of the things that's actually happening in our culture, which you're now starting to see in our politics, is the reinvigoration of Black families with younger Black men and Black women. And that is also helping to breed the revival of a Black middle class in America. You see, during Jim Crow, the Black family was together.
That's right.
During Jim Crow, more Black people were not just conservative, because Black people always have been conservative-minded, but more Black people voted conservatively. And then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are. What's happened in America the last 10 years, and I say it because it's my contemporaries, it's Wesley's contemporaries, you're starting to see more Black people be married in homes, raising kids. It's when you home with your wife raising your kids, and then you look at the world, you're saying, now wait a minute, time out. This does not look right. How can I get something to my kids? It goes back to the conversation of generational wealth. Not just having a job, generational wealth.
Now, we should note that many Democrats who jumped on Donalds today claimed that he said that Blacks were, quote, better off. As you heard there, he didn't use those exact words in the clip, but the congressman joins me now to talk about that. Congressman, thank you for being here. I want to just focus on really the substance of what you were saying or trying to say in that clip. What did you mean by Black families were more together during Jim Crow?
Frankly, what that is about the empirical fact that before the Great Society, before Lyndon Johnson's policies, there was more Black families united. The marriage rate in Black America was significantly higher before the Great Society. The period of time that coincides with that, obviously, is Jim Crow era. And then after the Great Society, the marriage rate in the Black community plummeted significantly. The Great Society is a part of that reason, not completely, but it's definitely a part of that. And what you're seeing right now in America is a reformation of Black families in America. That's a good thing, not only for the Black community and for Black families, but it's also a good thing for the country.
So,
Just to interrupt him right there, I'm the product of that situation. You know what I'm saying? My father was around, but then things didn't work out with my mom. But lucky for me, like, my father instilled very, very high level masculinity into me before that happened, so I wasn't able to fall by the wayside. But I get what he's saying. It's he's right. During Jim Crow, Black families were together. Black marriages were together. Black economics were together. There was a Black middle class then. And we both understand that there was redlining and that there was segregation at that time, but that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the ability for the black man and the black woman to cooperate was very, very, very much more prominent then than it is today. Today, 74% of black men will be raised in single-parent households. At least 1 out of every 3 black men will spend time in prison. There is no black middle class to give introduction to wealth. Black women themselves own so much of the debt in our communities. Black men do not have the economic strength to be the providers that they deem themselves to be. But back in Jim Crow, we had all those things. We were just separated from white society, but we still had a strong society. That's why in some parts I still believe that segregation, it had its ups and downs, it had its benefits. But I do love the melting pot that is the society today. But at the time, just from studying history, it could have been done a little bit differently without taking the black man out of the home.
What was the point of tying together the black family and Jim Crow specifically? I mean, Jim Crow, as you know, was a period of racial segregation, of racial terror. Why would you make that connection?
All I was doing was referring to the time periods when you talk about the historical timelines in America and coinciding with black families and what the marriage rate in black families are. The overarching point is obviously talking about what polling shows today, that about 25% of the black vote, depending on what poll you're looking at, is leaning towards supporting Republicans and supporting President Trump. The corollary to that is that when you're in a family unit, husband and wife, living together, working together, thriving together, you're raising your kids, your thought process is now talking about building generational wealth. What am I leaving to my children? What kind of communities do I want my children to come up in? What are the educational opportunities? What's going on with the economy? How does, and then to a broader level, how does foreign policy and all these other public policy issues flow into that? And so when you compare the terrible agenda of Joe Biden and what that's done to families in America, coinciding with the fact that you are seeing a reformation of black families in America today, which is an absolutely wonderful thing and needs to continue. My view is it also coincides with a more conservative leaning and a more conservative mindset politically in those families.
One thing I really want to just get you to address is there were a lot of people who heard what you had to say, and a lot of them are offended by the idea that you would repeat Jim Crow 3 times in your comments as if to suggest that that was a time period because that black families were, in your words, together. Because
oh my God, hold up! I got to stop right there. This is one thing about the Democratic Party that really pisses me off. It's like you can't state any type of facts without them trying to mix it up and turn it into something else. Like, so what now? For what now? We can't talk about the Jim Crow era at all. We can't talk about the Civil Rights era at all. Just because negative things happened in that era, we can't talk about the positive things. Unless you want to say they were only happening because we're in a situation. And if it almost seems like she's trying to insinuate that if it wasn't for Jim Crow, black people would not be together. Right? Let's continue.
In your words, black people were not just more conservative, they voted more conservatively. That's a good thing. I mean, it sounds like nostalgia. Do you regret using that time frame as a reference?
Nobody ever made nostalgia. That was never the point. It wasn't even about that. So where now I'm going to get my backup is I didn't say that. I didn't even insinuate that. That is where the media and yes, Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of other people are taking
what exactly didn't you insinuate?
No, back up.
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. What didn't you insinuate?
The premise of your question, I did not insinuate. That is what people are trying to weave into what I said. What I said is crystal clear. It's on my social media. Go to @ByronDonalds on X. You can see the full clip. Abby, I appreciate you playing the full clip. What you are dealing with right now is a political environment where now anything I might say or any major surrogate might say is going to be twisted into the lens of race. That was never the point, not the idea.
I just want to, just to clarify my questioning.
You did hear what he said, right?
I understand that this idea that you said it was better. You didn't use the words better, but when you talk about that time period, you're suggesting that because the Black family was together, they were better off than they are now.
He did not suggest that. Like I said, even through the way that she's talking, she's stammering. She's like trying to put words into his mouth. Like, no, he's absolutely correct. Black families were together. We had Black prosperity at that time. There was a lot of things going on in neighborhoods, from having our own laundromats, having our own clothing stores, having more to do with the public schools. That's another thing that was in Jim Crow. All our schools were taught by Black people. So we were getting the lesson that we were taught true history. When they always try to say that the United States did not teach Black people true Black history, yes, it did. We had Black schools at the time. Integration came and changed all that. It's like she can't see the positives in those things. I'm not asking to go back to segregation. I'm not for that, man. I love everybody. I'm in Venice, California, man. I've been here my whole life. I'm raised around everybody. It's free out here, but that doesn't change the fact that I still walk in the world as a Black man. And I hope that she can understand, like, I get that back in those times, we were just better together. And I don't want to say that the only reason why Black people were together was because of hardship. No, Could it be true that we were together because we loved each other, and then Lyndon B. Johnson came in and threw a nut wrench into the system of Black people, saying you know what I'm about to say? Well, we can wait for that, but you know what I'm about to say.
See, this is the problem, Abby.
So are you saying that that's not the case? That the Black family was not better off when they were, in your words, together?
Abby, let me put it to you like this.
In the Jim Crow era.
Let's agree on something. I am, obviously one of the better communicators in the Republican Party. I know how to put words together. I do it very, very often. So I'm not going to say something that I do not agree with. What America is seeing right now, especially Black America, is the gaslighting that unfortunately does happen in politics, where you take my comments and you want to weave your own political viewpoint into what I said. What I said is very clear.
I asked you to explain because I wanted to. I want to undo is understand what you're saying here. Because if you're making a comparison, you're saying the Black family was together then, they're not together now, and you're using that to try to say that things are bad now. Well, first of all, let me just to set the table here. By pretty much every available measure, Black families, Black individuals in this country are better off today than they.
Look, in general, Black society is better, but that is not true. That is not true. Just because we have freedoms, just I can date whoever I want. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much all that changed. I can date whoever I want. I can go wherever I want. But I was going to do that regardless. But what's not good is, do you see our communities? Do you see the people that we idolize? Is that, you told me that's better? We went from Malcolm X to Future? You know what I'm saying? We went from Etta James to Cardi B? And you want to consider that better? We went from 74% Black families being together to now 74% single moms, where you got people like Ebony K. Williams out there glorifying single motherhood and going to get your eggs worked from some random donor that you don't even know who he is, and going to have a child and they say, who's your father? A Petri dish? And that's championed? You think that's better today for the Black community and Black families? No. And he's not saying let's go back to Jim Crow. He's saying that at that time we were together more. There wasn't this fighting. I didn't feel like I was competing with a Black woman. That don't make any sense. There was some continuity, and we were together, and we were going to build against something. And yes, segregation gave us a common enemy, but that common enemy is still here. The liberal media talks about it all day, white nationalists and all that other stuff. That common media, by their own definition, is still here.
Were during Jim Crow. Would you agree with that?
Abby, of course I would. I'm not making that point, and this is the problem. What the Democrats, what Hakeem Jeffries did on the House floor, what Jamie Harrison, what the president of the NAACP, with the Biden campaign, because they're the ones who started this. It was really the Biden campaigns who were trying to cherry pick everything. They're trying to twist my words into saying something. I never said that. What I was talking about was specifically Black families. And the point that Black families being together is a great thing for the Black community. And you do have to acknowledge the empirical fact that before Lyndon Johnson's policies and the welfare state that was created in the United States, I'm not talking about good, bad, or indifferent.
But what about
Black families were, Black
about,
marriage rates were significantly higher.
Well, what
They're
about other
right
things
all he's
that
saying.
might
in
have,
America. That's a good
but
thing.
what
We
about
should
other
celebrate
things
that.
that may have contributed?
Okay. I'm gonna do a shot in the dark. Black men led the families back then. This is before the Section 8 and Section 8 housing. You know what I'm saying? Before Lyndon B. Johnson saying, I'm gonna have Black people voting Democrat for the rest of their life. You know what I'm saying? Black men led the environment. And we were very, very honorable men. I was watching one video when they showed the contrast of how Black men dressed in the 50s and 60s compared to how they dress now. Pants hanging down, including myself. I'm a Venice. I'm a skateboarder. I surf. So that's my style. I mean, I'm out here at the beach. Literally, the beach is a mile and a half from my house. I just skateboard there. So we got a style for that. But I can get dapper. But I get what he's saying. I'm not walking around here thugging it out, throwing gang signs. You know what I'm saying? Piecing up people, trying to start fights. None of that stuff, man. I'm out here trying to get an education, start my business, build my following, take care of my family, live a good life, retire someplace where I can buy a home. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's, for the most part, that's what Black people were back in the day. But nowadays, it's all money driven. Just everything is dinero and collateral driven. The higher level of speaking to the connectivity of the soul is kind of be thrown by the wayside. And as far as I'm concerned, that does not make the Black community better. So, once again, he is right. During that time, based upon our collective community love, it was better back then. It just was.
To the, maybe the decline in marriage rates, which, by the way, is not unique to Black families. That's happening actually across racial groups. But what about other?
All right, that clip ended right there. I got part 2 of it coming, but for right now, we're gonna just stop and let that breathe. As we can see, it's gonna be an age-old argument. I love the fact that she's definitely coming from a sincere place. And Byron Donalds, he's always a G. He stays in frame. He stays on topic. He doesn't get led, and he's always about his points. To me, it's very favorable to have this conversation, and I hope more people get to see it. So, please put this video around so people can see it, and let's just start the narrative. You're saying, if you would like to, put it in the comments down below. Put a 1 if you feel like the Black community is better than it was, and put a 2 if you don't. Let me know. Ooh, here we go again. Thank you guys again for watching Dino Reacts. And as always, if you like my content, like, comment, and subscribe. And always, chef's kiss. Mwah.